Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network. Welcome back to the show. Diana Bejasa joining us here. We're talking a little bit about that self-care hustle today. But first and foremost, who is Diana? She's amazing. You got to go right to her YouTube video. By the way, I clicked on the link before. I haven't watched your 150-second video in a while. But I did, and you guys need to do the same too. She's a burn-through catalyst speaker, fueling your fire, don't burn it out, life coach, you name it, she does it. She's an author as well. Let me have you introduce yourself. How are you, darling?
Hi, Jill. My name is Diana Bejasa, as Jill shared, and I am a life coach helping high-performing leaders who want to achieve their top goals, but don't want to work themselves in the ground to do it. And I'm all about disrupting these outdated personal development myths to prove that it's not about working harder, it's about working smarter for high achievers.
Beautiful. Really next level success strategies, as she says, and going to help you get through that burnout, revitalize that energy, which is how she's living her life. I mean, not easy as a single parent and raising a little girl and the struggles as a mom. You know, babies get up in the middle of the night. Maybe they need to nurse. Maybe they're not sleeping well, but we all go through something. But she can really empathize. She deals with it all the time and has. So Savor Life with Diana. Of course, that's her website. You can Google her, find out more about her. Click the little code there, right there on the screen. And I just want to say thank you for being here. As always, she's just, we've known each other for months now, but she's a great person, conversationalist, mother, entrepreneur. There's a lot to you, and probably, I know you're a chef, so probably a great cook too. I can't say that for sure because I haven't tasted anything you made, but you are awesome, and you really can empathize and relate to so many of us women out there. And thank you for being here to help so many on their journeys and working through some of the tough times in life. That's what it's all about. And we talk about self-care a lot, and people talk about it, but is it really working? Today we're talking about that hustle. So why maybe it's not working and what no one's talking about. Give me the overview on self-care, Diana. Go ahead.
Yeah, I want to talk about the self-care hustle, and I mean that in a couple different ways. So I want to talk about it just in terms of the business of self-care, as well as the ways that it may be not serving us exactly in the way that we think. So we might be actually getting hustled ourselves. And I also like just the juxtaposition of the two words, because I think it really shows, like here's something that we think we're doing to rest, but actually is something that we want to pit against something where we're forced to keep moving. And I don't think that we realize how self-care as it stands in our world, which is supposed to be the solution to burnout, to stress, it actually becomes something else that's stressing us out. So I want to talk about what happened there, because this self-care industry, I think it's tricking us into spending, into tracking, into optimizing, into performing rest instead of actually feeling restored. So, and how we can kind of tell that this is what's going on is, if self-care really works, then why are we all still exhausted?
Yeah, something's not really working. You say self-care is $1 trillion scam, and we're buying it. Yeah.
Yeah. So the wellness industry, I think, is, depending on how you want to estimate it, if you do it globally or whatever, I've seen numbers like 1.5 trillion, 6.3 trillion. It really just depends on like what source or whatever. But we know that self-care is a big industry. And the thing is about the wellness industry, they don't really want you to heal. It's in their best interest business-wise, right? You know that I have a business degree as well. The wellness industry benefits not from you healing and being completely well, but from actually being hooked. So what I mean by that, right? That's like when we look at global wellness, and we're talking about like $6.3 trillion industry, right? That's bigger than pharma, that's bigger than tech, that's bigger than fashion. And just self-care alone as the sector is worth billions, and it's continuing to growing. It's continuing to grow. So I think that a lot of what contributes to this, right, is, I don't know, have you seen that episode of Parks and Recreation, or maybe you've seen the skit where two of the characters do this thing they call it like treat yourself.
I've never watched it. I'm so sorry. So now you're going to make me Google later. I don't know anything about it. Tell me.
Okay, so it's this idea that like, anything goes wrong, you just like treat yourself, right? So whether that's like to a manicure or to a new bag or to like, like to a new vacation, like something's wrong, treat yourself, right? And that idea is actually a marketing gold mine. It convinces us that self-care means spending money. And I'm not saying that we can't get some benefit from making investments or buying certain things. But the thing is that we want to look at is that dopamine hit, right? Because it fades fast. And so we end up feeling just as empty or as exhausted as we were when we just started. And I remember for me, I think I've talked about this before, but I remember being like really stressed out one time and like when I was working on the trading floor on Wall Street, and I think I was on the Saks website, and I saw these pair of like Valentino shoes, and they were super expensive. I want to say like 800, $900, more than I'd ever spent on shoes before. And I bought them, and I felt that dopamine hit of like, these shoes, they're mine, they're beautiful, they're red patent leather. I still have them to this day. I love them. But as soon as that hit happened, it faded just as quickly. And I felt just as empty. And I was like, oh gosh, like that was actually the moment that I realized that no amount of money spent was going to fix how empty I felt and how exhausted I felt.
Oh,
Um, and I think that like there's just this way that we're kind of convinced that like we need to spend money, we need to spend more money to feel better. And I do think we need to make investments and do things that are right, but we got to look and see, is this something that just feeds me for a moment, or is it something that sustains me for a longer time?
wow. Great story. I've one time spent $1,200 on a pair of shoes, and to be honest with you, they were in my closet. I don't even know the name of them. and and can I tell you the truth? I thought one of them. I put them on, and after like a few minutes, they're killing my ankles because they have like these special straps with diamonds around it, and I'm like, oh, this is so pretty, and I'm like, what a waste of money. Like I thought there was gonna would be everything, and I could barely walk in them. I'm like, but I totally can empathize and relate with thinking that I need to buy something, that feeling of that high of something new and looking good and feeling good, and then I'm just like, wow, better off in like my Payless sandals. But remember Payless?
Yeah, of course. Who doesn't? But yeah, it's so interesting how like, and there's like this idea that if you spent $1,200 on shoes, that they're really much more special, or like they'll make you feel even better than a pair of Payless shoes, right? And um, not saying I do respect craftsmanship, you know what I mean? And I know that there's a lot of craftsmanship that goes into high-end shoes. I still really appreciate them, but they're not going to make us feel better. And we got to look and see where is
Hmm.
this like a marketing ploy versus something that truly serves us, right? Like I think about one of the things I wanted to talk about too was like the whitewashing and the capitalization of yoga, right? Of breath work, of meditation. These are all like sacred, ancient healing practices that now in our modern day world are $200 boutique classes, right? Where you wear like a fancy outfit, like you have a whole yoga clothing industry, right? Like so somewhere along the way through capitalism, healing became a luxury instead of a birthright, right? Like if you look at, and I'm not pretending to be completely educated on like traditional ancient yoga or breathwork or meditation or any of those, but those practices are free, right? Like if you're
Yeah.
if you're going Tibetan monks, they're not charging you for an app, right? And like if you're going to do yoga in India, there's no like outfits that you need to wear. Like a lot of them are wearing like their regular clothes, right? So
Hmm.
somehow we've changed healing into something that's capitalized. It has like an outfit. It has like, an app to that, right? Like, and why I'm mentioning this, because I do use some of the apps. I do think some of them are valuable, but there's this consumer culture that has permeated into self-care where again, the focus is not on rest anymore and relaxation and our well-being. The focus is on making money
Yep.
or spending money.
And then I mean, with social media, watch all these influencers and like, let me just say the Kardashians, and they're in a different outfit every day, and then they're on the cover of People because they're wearing this bag and holding that bag, and J Lo in her jeans, and I'm like, I want that. Like, it's just such a
Yeah.
it makes makes you feel less worthy. It makes you feel
Yeah.
like I have to have it, and then it's just like it doesn't work that way.
Yeah. Even you're right, even the media, right, is part of the issue,
Hmm.
right? Because they're exposing and glorifying these different things um and they're making us feel like, oh, if we don't have that, then there's something wrong or there's something missing from us. So I really think that rather than looking at self-care as something that we're supposed to buy,
Yep.
we can look at it with a different light because
Lens.
if rest
Hmm.
always comes with a receipt, then we've been sold a lie. So rather than buying another fix, what I suggest, right? Because again, I use apps. I take classes. I give classes, right? I don't think that it's an entirely terrible industry or something like that. I just want to point out that like a lot of it is really just consumerism in disguise. And what we want to think about instead is how can we make real investments in what heals us, right? Like a lot of things that are truly healing, like the original ancient forms of breathwork, meditation, yoga, they're free,
Yep.
right? Laughing with someone who you love is free. And that, like, have you ever had one of those times, Jill, where like you're just spending time with somebody and like it doesn't even matter what you're doing. You could be like literally just sitting on the couch and you have like the best time and it feels more invigorating and relaxing than like the $200 massage. Have you ever had that happen for you?
Yes, absolutely, positively. Yes.
Right.
Yes.
So why do we waste money on those sort of things instead of it on investing in the relationships, right? And I'm not saying I
I
love
know.
massages too. I'm all about it, but I'm just saying like where do we spend more money? Where do we spend money to fix something as opposed to really investing, right? Like
You're right.
a massage can be an investment, but sometimes if you're just spending money on massages all the time or getting your nails done all the time or a new outfit all the time, if you're just treating yourself, that's not self-care.
No.
That is consumerism.
So true. Holy cow. Oh, I get so guilty. It just happened this weekend. Same concept of my personal life. And I'm like, oh, let's go to dinner. Let's go. And then we go to dinner. And then the bottle of wine is like $200. And then I'm like, oh, I need another bottle of wine. And then as soon as I get the second glass from the second bottle, I'm like, I don't even want this. Why did I just waste his money on that? I'm like, but I know. I get it. I get it. Oh, I could have had water.
Yeah. Well, I mean, if you're wasting his money,
I,
then I don't know.
it was a date. But yeah, you know what I mean. You're right. You're right. It wasn't mine. Okay, good. Maybe a bad analogy, but sorry.
Oh, no, I'm just teasing. But yeah, like, there's so much that can be free or that can continue to pay dividends when if we're gonna buy something. Like so meditation, I do use an app. I like the Insight Timer app because
Hmm.
I just really like the timer function of it. And I'll tell you, I am guilty of liking something that we're going to talk about in a little bit. Another feature of the app that actually like makes rest more like productivity as opposed to true relaxation. But I think that if we're going to make investments, let's at least invest or use things. If we're not going to, if we don't, if the free option is not cutting it, or if that's not the only thing we want to do, let's at least make investments in things that are going to pay us forward, right? So, like when we look at deep nervous system healing, right? When we learn self-healing things, or when we learn how to properly do breath work or those sort of things, like I think skill building is
Yeah.
worthwhile in terms of an investment because that's something you have for life. But something that's consumable that like after you have it, like you never, you need to buy it again in order to experience it again. Like those are not as high value in my eyes when it comes to a self-care investment.
No, it's really not. Diana, just remind us how we contact you here. We're savoring life, savoring the conversation. Good show. Always great conversation. Got me thinking, and I hope it's helping you think too. Go ahead, sweetheart. How do we reach you?
Go to savorlifewithdiana.com. That's SAVOR life with Diana, because to savor life is free, right? It's to like really think that those moments of life are delicious and just to like really relish in them. That is a free opportunity that we have. And yes, I do teach people how to do that, and that is something you can make an investment in. But yeah, it's what I believe in is that like the best things in life really are free, and it's about learning how to invest and enjoy that. You can also find me on Instagram and Facebook at Diana Bejasa Speaks.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. All right, continuing the conversation, darling, here. We're kind of putting a little end to the self care. Well, not an end to it, but we got to be a little careful. And,
Yeah,
instead of, self care could be free, is kind of what we're saying, right? I mean, what else?
yeah.
What else is on our checklist?
Yeah. So again, self-care does not, you can spend money on self-care but if you're going to do it intentionally, right? Buy the app that really matters to you. Don't just buy the outfit because it's, and think that that's self-care, right? Like really think about, is this thing that I'm saying is caring for myself? Is it truly caring for myself, right? Because we start self-care to feel better,
Yeah.
but then it becomes another thing that we're supposed to keep up with. So like I was saying, one of my favorite meditation apps, Insight Timer app, I just use the free version. They have this they have this thing where like it tracks how many days straight I've meditated, right? So it's just another means of like, have I been productive with my meditation, right? Like I'm tracking my streak. I'm not just meditating, right? So that's, as much as I do appreciate that, that's a little bit of hustle mindset inside self-care, right? Instead of just journaling, right? Like, and I would say I'm a little jealous,
Yeah.
guilty of this too. Like, I talk about there is a right way to journal,
Yeah.
right? But we wanna make sure that I at least think like if we're gonna invest time, like, and we don't feel like we have um really an awareness yet. Like there can be this bridge where we are looking at, okay, we can do a little bit of tracking, but we got to see when it gets to be excessive, right? Like we're not, we don't just want to track and like turn everything into like something that we have to watch and checklist and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, Real rest, real effective rest is not structured, right? It's about not feeling guilty, right? Like there's this productivity a lot of times that gets attached to self-care. Like, did I do all the things that I was supposed to do? And that in and of itself is a little bit of that hustle mindset.
Yeah.
It can be a bridge to more unstructured things. So like I think that we also need to build bridges so that like we're not just going from like total productivity, like go, go, go all the time. We can use self-care and productivity apps and things like that to help us to experience more mindfulness. But the ultimate goal there is for it to just be something that we do and enjoy. So like my streak, right? Like I'm not worried about my meditation streak if I accidentally break it because I didn't use the app to track
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like it's about really enjoying self-care instead of falling into the trap, right? Instead of turning rest into a challenge, instead of turning healing into a milestone, right? Instead of looking at relaxation like it's something for us to optimize. Because if we do all those things, then self-care itself becomes work instead of play, instead of relaxation, instead of peace. It's like it's now something I have to check off my to-do list to make sure that I did it, as opposed to something that I did for myself. And so there's a little bit of nuance there, but I do think that ultimately the bridge where we're wanting to go there is to the place where self-care is just incorporated into our life. But because I know, especially for us high performers, like it can feel hard to go all the way from like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like I structure all my time. I know people who structure it to the 5 minute to like unstructured time feels completely just disorienting. So it can be good to put a little bit of container around that, but we got to also recognize like, um, there's a space for us to look at it where rest can ultimately be an escape instead of just letting hustle culture hijack it.
Got it. My goodness. All right. By the way, Diana, as a mom, as an entrepreneur, and I still always forget, it's so funny because when I think about you and your jack of all trades, I always forget the whole stock market career too. And you're so young too. I always forget that one to add to my hat my list. Can I just ask specifically, what did you do with the stock market exactly?
Yeah, so I worked in debt capital markets, which is basically just a fancy way of saying that I helped Fortune 500 companies who were looking to raise money by issuing bonds.
My gosh. Oh my gosh. And so you were chef before or after or during?
After.
Okay.
So I worked on Wall Street, and then during the global financial crisis, when everybody was getting laid off, I was like, you know what? I'm hardworking and I'm passionate about cooking. I'm going to follow my hard work and my passion. So that led me to cooking, and then following my passion and ignoring burnout over and over again, just pushing through it was what led me to chronic illness and autoimmune disease from head to toe. So that's why I do the work I do now, which is like really advocating for us to rest, to relax, to understand self-care. But I also really understand when self-care is something like more expense, like about making an expense. Like I paid maybe like $500 a month at the time for like pole dancing classes, and they were exercise classes and they were lots of fun. But like, there were just sometimes there was definitely some ways, when it was just buying an outfit where it wasn't about true rest and relaxation. It was about the status and um, the luxury of it and the consumerism of it.
Got it. All right. Thank you for that. Now I lost my train of thought, but this is awesome. Diana, we're savoring our life with her. Yes, we are having maybe some issues with relationships, with work, with life in general. Hey, guess what? She can help turn those sleepless nights into, great days, and you're going to get good rest because she's here to talk more about, how she's helping you and can help so many people. Yeah, today's topic is self care, obviously, but she does a lot, and in her, on her website, I urge everyone to check out her testimonials, what people are saying about her. And for example, there's a Jessica saying, "I radiate so much positivity now that my friends hardly recognize me. Who are you?" They asked. They've missed my smiling face. None of us thought we would see it again in our lifetimes. This is from a woman named Jessica who was like totally changed by working with you. Joanne says, "I didn't think this program would work because nothing else has ever worked. I'm so grateful I took the risk. I signed up for Diana's coaching session and my life was never the same again." Meeting Diana, this is from Brandon, says, "It was a blessing. Everything changed. Now I have about 20 women trying to date me for real, and they're all our matches. So whatever the block was is history." I mean, there's a lot. We're talking about, yeah, making more money, exceeding our life goals, relationships, self improvement. There's some great testimonials. I just want to add that to the mix. Go to the website.
Thanks.
You're welcome.
Yeah,
I love
yeah.
it, love it, love it, love it. All right, we still got plenty more time here. We got 8 minutes left, sweetie. What else do you want to add?
Yeah, I want to talk about we talked a little bit about this, but like the difference between performing self-care and actually feeling rested. And for me, what I think this is about, there's like this distinction between what's frivolous and what's a real investment, right? And like, again, coming from my finance background, I think a lot about this because there are things that you buy that you think are an investment, but they're really not. For example, like cars, right? As soon as you take that car off the lot, it loses in value. It depreciates fast. Like it's not necessarily like, we think of it because it's an expensive purchase as an investment, but it's not. Like it's unless you're buying like a vintage car, and even in those situations, the amount of upkeep that you have, like it doesn't often pay off. It's really much more frivolous. So I think that we want to look and understand and see. And I'm not saying never cars are never an investment, but I'm saying in general, most cars are not. Um, what's the difference between like, am I really purchasing something that like has a shelf life? Or am I purchasing something that's going to continue to pay me over time? So, like I was saying, like learning how to meditate, right? Or learning how to reset your nervous system or investing in quality rest is very different than a face mask, which I still love, expensive spa days, or buying the next thing, or just going on an expensive vacation. Like the rest you're going to get at the Four Seasons yes, the pillows are fluffier and all those things, but like, is it really, really worth it? And that question comes into play
Yeah.
for everybody in a different way. But I'm just pointing out that like these consumable things that need to be repeated, right? Like even retreats to a degree, if there's no real learning in them, and if it's just like I'm going to step away for a moment, that nervous system reset there is palpable, but it's also something you're going to need to repeat. That investment does not end there, right? Like you're going to have to buy it again if you're going to want to feel that again. So that's why when I host retreats, like I'm very much about like, okay, let's actually learn something. Let's turn this into something meaningful so that yes, we're resting, but we're doing it in a mindful way so that we're really helping ourselves and making an investment in our future.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
So if we're wanting to break that hustle, right? If we're wanting to not just get caught up in that cycle of hustle when it comes to self-care, um, I invite you to ask yourself, instead of saying like, what should I do for self-care? What do I want? Right? Consider what you actually need. And maybe, like we were saying, like maybe it's a
Yeah.
conversation with a friend. Maybe it's just like, I think of this as a form of self-care, but I sometimes canceling something on my schedule is a form of self-care, right? Like I don't want to do that meeting. Like I just need time. I'm going to take the time, right?
Yeah.
Um, because the thing is too, right? Like when we want to check in on our energy level when we're investing in something that's self-care, right? Because if it's making us feel more exhausted or overwhelmed, then it's not self-care. And that's why a lot of times just a strict vacation to me is not self-care. Because we come back, we're more overwhelmed, we're more exhausted because yeah, we got to rest while we were there, but now as we return to work, we're feeling even worse. Or if we're feeling guilty for resting, right? That's a sign that we actually need more of it. Because, rest is not a luxury, right? It's not something that has to cost $500. It doesn't need to be thousands of dollars. It's not a reward. It's our, it's our right.
Mm-hmm.
It's our, I think about that all the time with my daughter, right? Like she doesn't need to do anything to earn self-care and rest. She just takes it. She takes what she needs, right? Like and I think that is like a really powerful way of looking at our self-care is like it's not something that you deserve, right? It's not a treat. It is your birthright.
Yes. Yes, it is. Thank you for that. Yay! Oh, see, you have me thinking all positive and good today. And sometimes you need to pick me up. And in life, you need it. Some days you need it more than others, and sometimes you really need it for like, the long haul. And clearly, that's what you do. And you're helping so many with this. Thank you so much. Got to wrap up here. We have 2 more minutes left. How did you want to end off for today?
Yeah, well, I just, if this conversation sparked something for you, if you're starting to think like, and like question the ways that you've been trying to rest because they really are leaving you exhausted, it's not your fault. It's just that our body needs a different kind of recovery. And I recommend, right, like what I found has been game changing is not just taking another vacation or moving to Hawaii or changing jobs or doing a lot of the extreme things or expensive things that we think are going to fix everything, but really looking at developing better skills for regulating our nervous system for true recovery. So if you are curious about that, definitely check out my website. Reach out to me on Instagram or Facebook at Diana Bejasa Speaks, or you can go to my website, savorlifewithdiana.com, or my name, dianabehasa.com. There'll be a link there for a webinar, a masterclass that you can attend if you want to really understand more about chronic stress. But there's also a link there to schedule a free one-to-one session with me. So that way we can really look at like how is stress affecting you,
Yeah.
um, and how is it actually, this thing that you think is helping you, how can it actually be harming you? Because I'm excited. I have another podcast feature I'm going to be doing soon on another show where I'm going to be talking about how drive is like a narcissistic partner. It like love bombs you in the beginning, so that you have all this success and you feel like you get like this addiction to that relationship. But then it just leaves you feeling destroyed in the end. And I'm excited to talk a little bit more about that. But, if any of this resonated with you, schedule a session with me, watch the webinar. Let's connect and let's talk more.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Always a pleasure having you, seeing your smiling face. And it's going to be a great day. It's going to be a better night. Can't get worse than last night, right?
No.
Fingers crossed. Let me know next week. Hope I didn't speak too soon. As a mom, though, congrats. Doing it all, sweetheart. And proud of you. As a friend, as a mom, as a single parent, my heart goes out to you. And again, wow, you're helping so many, Gosh, awesome. I love it. I love it. You have a great day. And we'll talk next week. All right, Diana?
Thanks, Jill. I'll talk to you soon.
Bye, sweetheart.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Adopt US Kids presents Multiple Choice Parenting.
Your daughter just had her first breakup. Do you A, put yourself in her shoes?
How could he do this to you? And for Sheila, she has split ends.
B, console her?
Oh, sweetie, this is going to happen a lot. 4, maybe 5 more times before you get married.
C, take charge?
Got to get this all straightened out. Give a little talking to, man to man, mano a mano. Hey, Steve! Is now a good time? No? Okay, no problem. Bye.
Or D, help her find a new boyfriend?
I know a great place to meet boys. The internet. Nice, single boys. Never mind. How about some ice cream?
As a parent, there are no perfect answers. But you don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care will love you just the same.
For more information on how you can adopt, visit adoptuskids.org. A public service announcement from the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.